Do you actually need carbs for your thyroid? Is fruit the solution to your electrolyte or mineral imbalance? Well, today I asked Robb Wolf these questions, and I can't wait to share his answers with all of you, so stay tuned. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi. Thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. Today I spoke with Robb Wolf and asked him many questions, but this is a short snippet of those many questions where we specifically talk about carbohydrates, thyroid, and do we really need those things in order to have optimal health? So I really hope that you guys enjoy this short snippet. Now, if you want to listen to the entire conversation, my podcast will be linked in the information section below this video. So I encourage you to head down there. I'm releasing this conversation a day ahead of the full podcast because I love my YouTube family so much. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be posting the entire conversation that Robb and I had here on YouTube because, again, as I've mentioned, I love my YouTube family and I don't want to go anywhere. There were some topics that Robb and I discussed that I fear if I put up on this platform, I could risk losing it. And unfortunately, this is kind of the state of a lot of creators lately, friends of mine. And so that's why I created a podcast in the first place, you guys, because I had in November of last year started getting emails from many people that they had been unsubscribed from my YouTube channel and they never did it. And this has been steadily happening for almost a full year now. And my channel has not really grown in a full year, which is very disheartening. But like I said, I love you guys and I want to continue bringing you information. So I will release shorter snippets of this conversation that Robb and I had here on YouTube, but there are parts of it that I just would rather not. So I hope you enjoy it. This episode is actually going to be sponsored by Upgraded Formulas. Now, as you know, I have in my own journey had issues with mineral and electrolyte imbalance, and Upgraded Formulas has been a vital part of me figuring out those puzzle pieces, putting those together. What it is a hair tissue mineral analysis. So you give some of your hair to them, they analyze it, and it shows what's actually been going on in your body for the last 90 days. It's a lot different than a blood test, which is just a snapshot in time. So with that consultation that you get with the hair tissue mineral analysis, a consultant can actually tell you how much of specific electrolytes that you need. So I have been using this service for at least almost a year now, and it's been wonderful in helping me continue to maintain this lifestyle, because this lifestyle has really shown benefits to me that I continue to see even 3 years in. So I really hope that you'll check out Upgraded Formulas. Their link is in the information section, and my exclusive code I have for you guys is Yogi12, which will give you a discount of 12% off of anything on their website. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Robb Wolf, and stay tuned. I will put out other snippets later this week. And don't forget to check out my podcast. It's linked in the information section below. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Camps, there's a really loud group of people now that, a lot of them used to do carnivore, and now they're eating a lot of fruit, which is fine. I'm the first person that's like, if you can tolerate fruit, if it works for you, cool, go for it. If you're, super active, go for it. But they're basically saying if you don't eat fruit, if you don't eat sugar, their whole thing is the glucose, the sugar, and just do carnivore, that you're going to wreck your thyroid. It's going to just basically like deteriorate your health. But their big thing is like, you're going to just completely decimate your thyroid if you don't eat sugar as part of a regular part of your carnivore diet. And yeah, it's been there. I've stayed out of it. I've just been kind of watching, but there have been a lot of fighting going on in the community lately about that. I'm curious your thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah, during the summer, I definitely eat and seem to tolerate more fruit. I have to be kind of careful what I do. Melons and citrus tend to be the things I do best on. Some berries I do okay. I think because of kind of FODMAP fructose type issues, apples and pears crush me. Like I can eat like apple sauce because it's cooked, If the pears get baked or something, then I can eat a little bit of them. But so even that, like, I have a little bit of, specifics with it. And again, like some parts of the year, I will do more. If I have a really hard training day, I'll do more fruit that day. But the interesting thing is I can't really do it serially. I can't do it day after day. So I'll have kind of a higher carb day, and then I'll kind of taper it back down. And then I have a hard training day, and I'll taper things back down. And on that thyroid front, I really think a lot of what folks see there, whether it's keto or carnivore, is that folks aren't getting enough sodium in their diet. And when we have this very low insulin load environment, I don't know that the fruit, the sugar specifically, is fixing the problem. I think the fruit, sugar, and insulin is causing the body to retain enough sodium so that we're not seeing that antagonistic action of cortisol against the thyroid, preventing the conversion of T4 into T3 and getting reverse T3 building up and whatnot. Everything that I see there, people will say, well, that's a carb problem, but you could equally make the case it's an inadequate sodium problem. And one of the primary effects of eating more carbs is that we retain more sodium. So I would make the case that if at a minimum, if folks are eating a very low carb diet of whatever flavor, they got to be getting at least 5 grams of sodium per day from dietary and other sources. And then I don't see those same types of problems popping up. And I would lean heavily just on what I see out of the Keto Gains community, because they have tens of thousands of people going through their program, just enormous throughput. Their main demographic is comprised of females, 35 to 60. So like if you were going to see hormonal dysregulation, thyroid issues, that is the demo. Like that is the demo.
100%.
But you just don't see that because they pay as much neurotic attention to the sodium and electrolyte intake as they do protein, carbs, fat. And that was part of the reason why I really glommed onto those guys, because I saw them doing some work that was really, really, really different. So I would make the case that while people are doing these pissing matches back and forth about carbs, no carbs, all that type of stuff, that they would be better served really making sure that they get their electrolytes on point.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I have people that message me constantly about poor sleep and hair falling out and things like that. And I'm like, well, a few things. Are you eating enough? Are you over exercising? Are you over fasting? Or you just maybe need to put fasting on the back burner? But what are you doing for electrolytes?
Right.
And most of the time, I would say 9 times out of 10, those people say, I'm just salting my food to taste.
Yeah. And it's not remotely enough.
Oh, yeah. You got to do a lot more than that. And that was definitely a problem for me. I think even with just doing super high protein, it accelerated the dehydration. But I was extremely dehydrated just after just salting my food to taste for a year straight. And that was the only thing I did for electrolytes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you completely.
Well, I had 20 years of dealing with inadequate salt. So you got off easy. So, yeah.
Well, I feel like there's so much information out there now. I mean, this was 2019. And then if you're doing it all those years ago, there's like nothing out there at all as far as information goes.
Yeah. And it's funny, if one is placed on a medically supervised ketogenic diet, the dietitian it really, they put together a meal plan that will guarantee you get at least 5 grams of sodium per day. And they also make sure that if somebody's put on an epilepsy diet or like adjunctive cancer therapy or something, they want a certain ketogenic level, then the protein, carbs, fat are really important. But because they understand the natriuresis of fasting, that when insulin levels drop, that we tend to dump sodium, and then we get this kind of downward spiral where then we start dumping potassium and everything goes crazy. They fix that by making sure by hook or by crook that you get adequate sodium. But in the pop culture of diet books, and I've written 2 of them that were New York Times bestsellers, and I mentioned sodium not once in either of those, and if I could have been aware of this in the early 2000s, like, one, my health would have been far better. My experience of life would have been far better. And I would have been in a position to help a hell of a lot more people versus waiting till 2016-ish and having sodium really get on my radar. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's in the presence of low insulin that we really need to be cognizant of the sodium intake, right?
Yeah, more so. But it's interesting. Even just high motor athletes like the American Council of Sports Medicine, they make the case that people who are training hard in hot or humid environments at altitude should be consuming 7 to 10 grams of sodium per
Wow.
day. And that's within the framework that they're assuming these people are eating 600 grams of carbs per day. So
Wow.
it really, it juxtaposes there possibly how far off we are on these kind of electrolyte recommendations. And people will go down the rabbit hole and say, well, how did people get that much, out of like an ancestral diet? And I have different thoughts on that. And a lot of it boils down to, I think people drank fewer fluids in an
Yeah.
ancestral environment. Like they don't have one of
Yeah.
these that, that they're just
Right.
chugging
Because,
on.
right.
Yeah. I think that's a piece of it. And then on the exercise side, even though what we understand from hunter-gatherer activity levels, they were active, but they didn't look remotely like a hard training athlete. Like and a lot of people, that's their outlet, that's their joy, that's great. But if you're going to push things above kind of super physiological levels, above what ancestral norms are kind of expecting, then we're going to have to buffer that with more electrolytes or different types of fueling and whatnot.